This is how men act when I get my period.
Oh, babe, I got my period.
And?
I had nothing.
Yeah, here comes all the excuses why it can be difficult for a week.
Like, why are women still getting away with this?
Get away with what? You just get to act crazy and blame it on your period.
What happens if I go through something this week, huh?
Don't expect me to treat you any different just because you got your period.
And I also think a big reason guys are so grossed out by fucking period blood is because they think the vagina, the pussy, if you will, should be used for one purpose and one purpose only.
Agreed.
And that is to make them fucking come and be sexual, little cute, tucked away little pussy. And no, bitch, it bleeds. Like, hate to break it to you, newsflash, your favorite porn star, her shit bleeds every month.
Bitch, what I was trying to say is this situation got me so wet and so dry at the same time. Exactly.
What's up, bitches? Welcome back to another episode of So Wet, So Dry. I am one of your hosts, Autumn, like the season. I am one of Aphrodite's many sex-positive radiant daughters, and I work in entertainment.
Okay, and I'm your other host, Fiji, like the island, like the water. I'm a Pisces, and it's my season right now, and I work in social media and marketing.
Let's go. And if you guys are new here, what we do on So Wet, So Dry is we deep dive topics about sex, relationships, identity, all through the lens of pop culture, internet trends, and our community's experiences. We post polls for every single episode we do on our Instagram at So Wet So Dry. The O's are zeros. So make sure you're following so you can contribute to that, share a story, and really just join our community of confused pussies.
Yes, and today we are talking about period sex. We're talking about the stigma. We're talking about the magical healing powers. We're talking about soul ties. We're talking about period phobias and blood magic. But before we get into all of that, we're going to start the episode as we always do, talking about what we're so wet and so dry about in this very moment. So I will go first. I am so wet because our podcast is going up right now on YouTube. Like, our views are hitting. And, like, by the time this comes out, it's, like, what? Like, 3 weeks after we
so
just
hopefully.
had. Hopefully it's still good. But me and Autumn were literally just talking the other day about, like, we don't know how we've been posting so much with just, like, 30 views a fucking episode. Just pure fucking delusion. Okay? But, like, it's so nice because I think both of us were kind of reaching that point where we were like, what are we doing this for? Like, is this ever going to work? Like, oh, my God.
Is this a passion project?
Right. Like, why? Whatever. But then right when we got to that, like, things started to go up. So I feel like, you know, as an entrepreneur, as a creative, like, there's peaks and valleys. And at the end of the day, like, your subscribes, your comments, your likes, like, everything really means so fucking much to us.
So much to us.
I'm just feeling so grateful for you and for our listeners, like, for everything right now.
Yeah, and like we know that podcasting is like a long game when it comes to monetizing and things like that. And like honestly, our goal is just to like be raw and real and like be faces and voices on the internet that don't like try to pretend to be anything or sugarcoat anything. Like we make mistakes, like, and we just want to have fun with y'all. But yeah, definitely ditto on that because I'm so hyped. I would say I'm so wet. I started like this new kind of thing in therapy where I kind of tell my therapist, like, this is my dream life. Like, I wake up at this time, I do this, I go to yoga, I go to Trader Joe's, I go to my work, whatever. Like, this is what I want. Like, how do I get there? So I'm just like really working on like manifesting my dream life. I really want to apply for a permit. If you guys don't know, Fiji and I both don't drive, but I really, not that I can afford a car or anything.
But your
I
roommate
think
has
I do
one.
want to drive. What?
Yeah, your roommate has
My
one.
roommate does have one, exactly. I do want to drive. I want that independence. And I've been applying to a lot of I don't know if you guys also, I don't know if I've talked about this, but I did. Last episode, it was like career change or something.
Yeah.
But I want to transition into the wellness space. So I've been applying for a lot of like front desk, like spa positions.
Love.
Which like seems boring, but like I'll get to wear a cute outfit every day. Like be chill. Like, I'm just like excited for like newness. So I'm wet about
and
that.
you're such a good host, like not just
That's what I'm
podcast
saying.
host, but restaurant host. Like, guys, Autumn was the face of the restaurant we worked in college, and she ran that shit. Like, she is the best at being the first person that greets you when you walk in the door. So I think you'd kill it as a front desk bitch.
Because I don't want to be a front desk person forever. But I need to get in the door of these spas so I can go to massage school and like do this shit. So I'm just excited, and I'm not sad about, I don't think I'm leaving entertainment because we're
still in it. Yeah.
I have, passions about writing. Like, I don't think I'm leaving entertainment, but I just don't want to do casting anymore. Like, boy, bye.
Yeah. Bye. On to the next. Okay, I'm so dry. Well, one little thing, like I've broke my nail last weekend, and like we pre-record episodes, so I realized as I smoke that you guys are seeing a broken nail for like 3 weeks in a row. I promise I'm gonna get fixed.
Your smoking finger.
I know, and it's my middle finger too, so if I flip someone off, it doesn't look cute. But that's just a side note. What I'm really fucking dry about, again, has to do with the podcast, but like I'm not really dry about it, but we have a lot of hate comments. We have a lot of incels, once again, commenting on our male loneliness epidemic video, and they clearly didn't watch the whole thing. They clearly aren't here to have a real conversation. They just want to call us ugly and that we'll die alone and all this bullshit. But it is kind of like depressing because I feel like it's taken us so long to like come to this place where we were like reassessing our own feminism. It's discouraging. Like, it's depressing because we're like, we want to have conversations and connections with men and meet in the middle and like have hope for a better future. And I still fucking do, because we got a lot of really great stories and comments from men. So I don't want to minimize that.
I know a lot of men said great things. We definitely got some people that I feel like will listen to upcoming episodes. So but it's like we were thinking, like, is it more hate than good?
I think
like that's what we were trying to figure out. But either way, I mean, these conversations are important to have, and like a lot of the hate comments we can just laugh off because they don't even make sense. But I get it. I would say I'm so dry about, again, in therapy, I've been working on how I make to-do lists that are like over the top and like very much like not realistic.
Yeah.
And it's like it's like connecting your actions or keeping that in mind while setting your intentions so you can set you up for success is something I struggle with a lot, because I know I can do this crazy to-do list that I set. It's possible.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's like when you're struggling to like change out of your pajamas in the morning, you might not be able to like do a marathon of tasks. Like just being more realistic about that. But honestly, I wrote this down like 3 days ago. I was like, oh, that's a good drive. But I'm like feeling good right now. But that still stands true. So
yeah, because I do that too. Like, you set like this like long list, and then you're destined to feel bad about yourself because it's unrealistic to accomplish all those tasks in 24 hours.
Yeah.
Like,
why are you doing that to yourself? All right, y'all. So let's get into this topic. As Fiji said, we are talking about period sex today. We're gonna kind of be all over the place with this episode because period sex is actually a very big topic. Yeah. When it comes to, just menstrual blood being so sacred in some cultures and like why we view period sex the way we do. There's blood magic, soul ties, like there's a lot. So just bear with us, and we're going to start with like a quick overview when it comes to period sex. Possible benefits of it and possible side effects as well. Just like, I feel like it's all kind of common knowledge, but you never know. So I just want to make sure we get that out there. So some benefits of period sex that we found is relief from cramps, having a shorter period in general, increased sex drive, so sex feels really fucking good. It's a natural lubricant, and it reduces headaches and migraines. Ooh. So those things are pretty cool. I think a lot of them can be the same for masturbation, so it's like kind of orgasming and stuff like that. Which I feel like we know, like, I feel like if you're a woman and you're like dying with period cramps, I feel like it's more well known to like just come real quick.
Yeah, I'm so horny on my period, like a couple days before or like after, like during, like, yeah.
The natural lubricant, I'm like, okay. But some possible side effects include definitely risks of getting any type of STIs, which obviously is sex in general, but especially with blood, you can get hepatitis, which is a virus that lives in blood and can be transmitted through contact with infected menstrual blood. So use condoms to prevent STIs, kids.
Woo!
And if you do have sex during your period, make sure you remember to take out your tampon. Like, I know that might seem obvious, but if you're like drunk at the club, like whatever, you never know. So that should be top of mind because it can get stuck really bad. And like, that could be medical, bitch. Not only is that bills, it's painful. We don't want that. And then lastly, it is still possible to become pregnant. So just keeping that in mind as well. So those were just some quick things.
Yeah, I do have one more. So, like, I know we said it's good for cramps, and it can be for a lot of women. Like, I have PCOS and also endo. The PCOS comes and goes. So, for me, sometimes, like, sex on my period can hurt really bad. Like, I prefer, like, slower, like, not as, like, intense sex, especially if it's, like, the first 1 or 2 days. So, know your body. For some people, it relieves cramps. For some people, it can make them worse. So, just something to keep in mind.
Totally. I'm glad you said that. Okay, so let's transition. So basically, even without sex being involved, like periods are like a thing in society. Like it's low-key a loaded topic, and I don't know why it is, but it is. So let's talk about kind of how people feel about period sex in general. And we'll start with what you guys thought.
Yes, so let's get into our first poll that we asked you guys. We said, how do you feel about period sex? 23% of y'all said it doesn't bother me. 18% said I think that shit's hot. 15% said gross, I hate it. And the majority, 44%, said only if it's my long-term partner. And I feel like this pretty much lines up. Like, I would say I feel the same. Like, I don't think I would go as far to say I think it's hot. Like, I'm usually when I'm on my period, unless it is a long-term partner, like I don't want to have sex because I'm like,
But you have before.
But I have a bunch of times, and sometimes I'll be like, oh, I'm going out on my period, or like I'm hanging out with this dude on my period, so like I'm not gonna fuck, and then I've still fucked. So like, because they don't be giving a fuck. Majority of the time, in my experience, guys don't really care. I have had some experiences where they're like turned off by it or whatever, but normally I feel like they get so horny that they don't give a fuck.
Yeah, I would say definitely same, like if it's my long-term partner, and not because like I don't want to be judged, but it's just like it's very like intimate. And like we'll get into that, but it's just like it's kind of just a lot. I don't really know, but I think like definitely if it's my long-term partner, but I have done it without a long-term partner maybe once or twice, and like you, I like wasn't really down for it to happen. Like it kind of just did, but I was like, I don't want this. So
yeah, because it's like normally on your period, like you feel a little bit bloated, you don't feel the hottest, maybe you're breaking out, like
it's that.
It's not,
you don't feel like the hottest. Exactly.
Yeah, but when you're with your long-term partner, you're like comfortable, and like you've probably done it before, and it's fine. Yeah.
Right. Totally. And we found this article on HuffPost, which was talking about like, period sex, what people have to say about it. So it was basically this big study, but there were some couples and individual people that responded and just said briefly how they feel about period sex. And we just thought it was cool. So this first one was like, blood in general is fine, but when it comes from a vagina, it's disgusting. That's ridiculous. Someone else said, we started finger painting on each other. We drew hearts and swirls. Someone else said it's nicer just to wait. And then this couple, they both said she has to deal with it, so there's no reason why I should run away and hide. Another couple that said, this is a queer lesbian couple, what if our cycles aren't the same and we don't have sex when we have our periods? That would mean not having sex for 2 weeks.
So true.
And then this last queer couple said, I think there's an exception that queer female couples don't have an issue with period sex at all.
Right.
So it's super interesting. There were some women in there saying it's disgusting. There were some men in there saying, if she has to deal with it, I'll deal with it too. Then we got queer couples fucking on their periods. Like, I definitely fucked my girlfriends on my periods, like OD. Like, for sure. I think there is that in the lesbian queer community.
Yeah, the first time I ever ate pussy, she was on the end of her period.
yeah.
And honestly, it wasn't the best experience for me because it was my first time eating pussy. And I was like, oh, like she could have said something. But I feel like it's really not that big of a deal. I think I actually have had sex with a girl when I was on my period, though, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
mean,
have.
it's just like, it is what it is. But again, like, it was like my very close girlfriend. Like, we had been dating for a while. Like, it just, you know?
Yeah, it's easier. I will say that the finger painting on each other with hearts and swirls is kind of crazy. And that came from a guy, Scott 36. So
Scott 36. Bro, I'm like, I know. And I'm like, I honestly am not here to judge because, like, I'm all for, like, the female, women, gender, whatever body being celebrated.
Yes.
But, yeah, I mean, I can definitely get behind not everyone wanting to swirl hearts. I get that.
I think it could be a kink. Honestly, now that he says that,
sure.
like, it could definitely be a fucking kink. But yeah, if you're that open and comfortable, that's fucking dope. Me personally, I don't know about that one.
Hearts and swirls, baby. But yeah, so this we're just, you know, more of what people think about period sex. This TikTok is kind of like some male opinions on period sex, so let's watch it.
What are your thoughts on period sex?
Michelle, I guess.
I don't really have any. I'm gay, so I would never have to deal with that.
I know it's up to the girl, I guess, not up to the boy.
If both parties are comfortable with it, go ahead.
Okay, so one thing I will say is that men love when you're on your period to be like, let's just go to the shower. And like, for me, it's just like, I feel like rarely when I'm like fucking on my period is blood like coming out. Like usually it's the end. And also like, I just don't really love shower sex. Like I swear it like dries up my pussy. Yeah, like.
Because water is not lube.
Water is not lube. It like makes your pussy like tighten and like close, and then it hurts. And also like where can I grab onto? Like I'm slipping, like I'm gonna fucking bang my head. Like this is not it. And I get that they're like, oh, we need like, but since when are you so OCD about cleanliness? Like,
right.
I don't know. But I feel like for the most part in that TikTok, like it was refreshing to see a lot of men be like, you know, it's not that big of a deal. Like most men on the street were like cool with it. So I do fuck with that.
Right. And I do, like, my ex-boyfriend, honestly, like, he was cool with it. Like, sometimes he would say, like, let's put a towel down. But I don't really care. Like, I don't think putting a towel down is bad because I wouldn't want
I don't
that
understand
on
the
my sheets
purpose, though. Like, have you, maybe it's just me personally. Like,
no,
I
so I was going to say, like, he was, like, hitting it from the back. Like, I was, like, I was, like, I was reverse cowgirl. Like, my ass was in his face. And he said, like, because we talk shit, like, we dirty talk the whole time. So he's like, oh, my gosh, you're dripping down. Like, you're such a whore, like, whatever. And it was, like, a thing. And I was like, oh, my God, I'm dripping? Like, I was freaking out. But I was like, he seems fine with it. But then whenever we would finish, then he would be like, oh, my God.
You would clean it up. Like, yeah.
And I'd be like, okay, I'll clean it for you, like, type shit.
There's, like, such a thing with them having, like, blood on their dick. Like, I've never had it, like, go out.
But throw up's fine? Like,
right, exactly. And that's what I'm, like, I've had guys that I fucked when they wanted to, and I was like, okay, whatever, we can fuck on my period. And then we're fucking, and then they see blood on their dick, and they're like, okay, you're bleeding too much. Like, I don't want to do this. And I'm like, all right, well, you started this, and what the fuck did you expect?
So irritating. We're going to get into that later, too, like more of men's opinions on periods. This next TikTok we want to show, I honestly thought this shit was weird as fuck. Like, it's like a trick to stop the blood, but I don't fuck with it.
I think I remember this one. This is from Chloe Cherry, who she was in Euphoria, and then she's also a porn star. Yeah. So I'm sure this is probably a trick that they use in porn and like films and stuff like that to stop the blood. But yeah, it's a weird one.
If you have your period and you want to have, you can put makeup sponges in your, and what makes it even better, like take makeup sponges and like wet them with water, or even better, like coconut oil, and then put that inside of you, and then you can have, and there won't be blood everywhere.
I just can never picture myself putting a wet makeup sponge in my pussy.
That's what I'm saying. Like, the fact that she's a porn star, like, I'm like, okay, like, that's cool. But I'm just like, I think that that's fucking weird and gross, and I would never do that.
I feel like that's just like too much. Like it makes sense if you're making a film, like the producers or whatever, they don't want to show that unless it's a video.
But to like, I don't think you should propose this idea to like your average civilian. I really don't.
Like, I don't think, because what's the shame in it? Like, why are we ashamed of, like, some period blood, like, there? Like, if they want to have sex on your period, they need to know. And then if you don't tell them and you're trying to do this trick to avoid them knowing.
Like, we talk about tampons getting stuck. Can a makeup sponge not get stuck?
Where's the string?
I don't no, that's, like, low-key. Then it's, like, some, like, fucking 7th grade girl tries that. Like, and then it's really bad. Like, you know what I mean? So, I don't know.
I don't love that one.
But the last thing we'll talk about with this section is just like this film. And it's just like how period sex is being portrayed in society, like in 2023, 2024. So I haven't seen the movie, but it's called Saltburn. Have you seen it?
I've seen it. It's very big right now. Like it was like huge. Some people loved it. Some people hated it. I was iffy, but I did kind of like this scene and another scene that the sexual scenes I did kind of fuck with. But
okay. Okay, yeah. So we'll share this one scene. But basically, Saltburn features women having sex while menstruating. Both scenes are sensual and aim to confront a topic Fennell says people are squeamish about. Oliver develops a connection with Felix's troubled sister, Venetia, talking about the characters. He knows through Venetia's mother, Elspeth, these names, that she struggles with disordered eating. That's the information that he takes into the next scene, telling Venetia that her body, rather than something disgusting, is in fact beautiful and arousing. Oliver uses a moment alone with her to reference her insecurities with food and her body, but with assertiveness and softness, leading to a flirtatious interaction. It's up to interpretation whether he brought up her insecurities to flatter her or exert power over her, possibly both. The mood between them becomes sexually charged. Although Venetia tells Oliver it's not the right time of the month for them to be intimate, he proceeds anyway. Oliver eventually spreads blood on both of their faces. It's an incredibly effective sex scene because he's worshiping her body and everything that her body produces, and that's not something that anyone has ever done for her before. The blood on the face, though?
Yeah, because he was like eating her pussy. She was wearing like a white dress too, and she was like outside. Like it was a really like
outside?
A lot of it was a really weird scene. Like a lot of the sexual scenes in this movie were like kind of weird, but also kind of hot because they were like taboo. I will say, like, me watching the movie, I do think because of his character and in other scenes, like, it was a way kind of to exert power and, like, dominance over her. But, like, it did also turn her on in the sense of, like, you know, like, you are appreciating my whole body. But I do think, like, it's a turn on for me when, as much as I'm like, oh, no, I don't want to, I'm on my period, when men are like, I don't give a fuck. Like, one time I was fucking this dude, like, I think it was, like, 2 years ago.
It makes me feel safe.
Right. It makes me feel like better. Like I was fucking this dude and he had texted me because we had fucked the weekend before. And I was like, oh, I can't this weekend. I'm on my period. And he was like, I don't give a fuck. I'm a grown man. And I was like, okay, that's hot. Come over.
Daddy.
Right. So I think it's really hot like when guys do that.
Because it's also like I might not necessarily want to fuck on my period. But just the fact that he's down to is cool. That doesn't necessarily mean we're gonna.
Right.
But I want him to say that still. You know?
Right.
Because, like I said, it creates a safe space. It's not even, like, it's a little bit about turn on, but it's also like, okay, cool. So now if I queef while we have sex,
they like that shit,
you're going to be a grown man about it, too? I mean, I feel like it's in the realm of, like, embarrassing things.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't even queef that much, but, like, I do think it's funny, like, to talk about.
No, it's so awkward when they pull out and you're, like, still queefing. But there is, like, another movie that I thought of, and I wish I had, like, remember the name before we recorded this, but if you guys are listening and you remember the name of the movie, please comment below and tell me what you thought, because it's on Netflix and it's about like a relationship with a man and a woman. It's pretty new. And at one of the beginning scenes, he's like eating her pussy in a bar bathroom, like on her period. And the whole movie is pretty much like he comes to like hate her for her success, and like it ruins their relationship because they're like working at this like banking firm. And it's like, honestly, the whole movie was like really triggering for me, and I kind of hated it because it was so much about like the like pent up hate that men have for women when they like become successful and how they feel less than. But I think in that scene, I think it was trying to show like how much he like loved and appreciated her like before all of this shit happened, and he would do anything for her, and then as time went on, like whatever. But if you guys watch that movie, let me know what you think in the comments because I hated it, but yeah.
Let's get into some period phobias and more just like how men can be while you're on your period, whether we're talking about sex or not.
Yes. So the next poll that we asked you guys is, what do you think of men who are afraid of period blood? And both men and women responded to this poll. 38% said it's honestly valid, and 62% said they need to man up. It's not cute. And you know what's so funny is like when we put this poll, like we had just done the male loneliness episode where we're talking about how we shouldn't say like man up, toughen up, whatever. So I'm like, whatever. But when it comes to something like this with a woman's body, like I'm like, so many men are like, funny. I think it's funny because they're like, oh, I need to be so masculine. And then you're like with a hot bitch and you won't fuck her because she's on her period. Like, okay, bro.
Right.
But I do think it's
like
valid to.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, 38% saying it's honestly valid is kind of a high number. And, like, a lot of women voted that, too, like, on my end.
Yeah, I voted the other. I think it is kind of valid, like, in a way, though, because it's like, okay, like, I get, you know how men are with their dicks and, like, balls and, like, fears of being castrated and whatever. So for them to see, like, blood on their dick, I think is, like, very, like, associated just, like, psychologically with, like, oh, my God, it's going to be cut off. But, like, I feel like they need to remove that because, again, I always think, like, what are you going to do if this is your wife or, like, your partner or whatever and she's giving fucking birth? Like, are you going to be a pussy?
Yeah.
When she's pushing out your baby?
I don't think it's valid at all. Like, at all. I 100% think you need to grow the fuck up. Because at the end of the day, like, period blood is not like regular blood. Like, you guys not know that? Like, I feel like they literally think we have, like, a cut. Like, I don't. Yeah. And it's just, like, we can't help it. And it's, like, God forbid. Like, no. So, yeah. And I also think a big reason guys are so grossed out by fucking period blood is because they think the vagina, the pussy, if you will, should be used for one purpose and one purpose only. Agreed. And that is to make them fucking come and be sexual, little cute, tucked away little pussy. And no, bitch, it bleeds. Like, hate to break it to you, newsflash, your favorite porn star, her shit bleeds every month.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, so we found this article, and it's basically an open letter to men about period sex, period blood, whatever. It's this woman, Kelsey Miller. She wrote it. And she's essentially sharing stories from a past relationship where her partner, whose name is Patrick, had this like big period phobia situation. Like he wouldn't even let her finish sentences when she would talk about her period. Like he was very like weird about it.
And that was very common in like older times, I feel like, when it was like, oh, I don't want to hear it. Like the dad would be like, oh, she's on her period, need to stay away from her. Like she's whatever. Like, yeah, that's a very disgusting common thing.
Totally. So we'll just read a short excerpt from her essay. So this is all her speaking. And basically, this is kind of like the conclusion part of it. Like, she's like, what the fuck do I do? Like, my fucking partner is, like, crazy or whatever. Like, what are we doing as a society to make this go away? So she says, where is the pioneering sex ed teacher who will teach boys about puberty, safe sex, and breathing exercises to help stem the panic attack they might have should they encounter a box of tampons? And she goes, until that sex ed teacher comes along, I think we're it, ladies. There are plenty of guys out there who can handle the fact that their girlfriends have a period without the assistance of self-help literature. There are even some who aren't bothered at all, especially if it's one of those thank God we're not pregnant months. But there are also the Patricks of the world. Again, her ex-partner. Wonderful in many ways, but reduced to a quivering puddle of hysteria in the face of a pastel maxi pad. And that's just not okay.
Yeah.
After all, there's no male equivalent that women are given a free pass to reject on principle. You don't see me leaving the table at the mere mention of a receding hairline.
Right.
If we have to deal with it, you have to deal with it. You don't even have to deal with it. You just have to deal with us dealing with it.
Right.
If not, deal breaker. So she's saying, like, if you will come across a man like this, like, we can't be together. And I just loved her. Again, it's like an easy read. I love an easy read. It has a lot of voice in it. So it really stood out to me. But I just think it's so true. Like, I don't know if I necessarily think little boys need to have the in-depth period session we had. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to it, but I think they should have something so they know what the fuck is going on.
Yeah, because it makes me think of that TikTok trend that happened recently where there was like girlfriends were showing their boyfriends like a water bottle filled with water and then putting the tampon into it when it expands. And they were like, oh my God, it gets so big. How do you pull it out? Like, what
I'm
the
like,
fuck?
Your
and it's like,
dick is in me. A baby's head comes out of me.
Like,
That
what do
can
you
get big.
think? Like, what the fuck do you think? Like, they literally don't know. They're just like so unaware of like how these things work. And at first I was like, oh my God, like I can't imagine like showing my partner that, because like to me it's like ick. But then I'm like, it's also a good thing because they do need to fucking know, especially if they're gonna have daughters one day or like whatever. And I think a lot of men that have like sisters like are more aware, especially if they have older sisters and stuff like that, because like me with my brother, I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm just gonna like talk about like whatever. Like, I'm not like ashamed of certain shit because we live in the same house. He's my fucking brother.
So it's like either you're ignorant because of like a fear factor behind period sex, or you were forced into situations where your sister and mom told you. Like, that's what we're dealing with. And it's just like, damn, bro. Like, because I really think it's like, you know, the grown men don't want to teach the little boys about this because they don't want to talk about that shit either. Right. And even if you do have a daughter, a lot of men have the mindset where it's like, well, that's going to be the mother's job. Like, I'll teach the son how to not be a rapist, or maybe. Right. Like, and they don't even, anyways, like.
But one other thing I will say, like, I do know, like, when men talk to, like, their sons about periods or whatever, like, the teaching that they teach is usually like, oh, like, be nicer to your mom because like it's her time of the month, or like your sister. And I like remember my dad like saying that to me, like about like, oh, your mom is like whatever. And like in some ways it was like kind and empathetic, and like at least he's recognizing her cycles and like aware of that and like being kinder to her. But it's also like, okay, can we not just pay attention to the fact that women are too emotional or delusional on their periods, and that can't be the only like thing that we're teaching young boys about periods.
Like, it would be better to say, like, be gentle with your mom. Like, she might have, like, physical pains this month. Because it's, like, at the end of the day, it's, like, you really only have 1 or 2 days of, like, if you at all have, like, a cry breakdown. Like, it's not, like, the whole time. Unless, like, everyone has issues, birth control, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's all a thing. But at the end of the day, they make it seem way more dramatic than it really
They make it seem like we need to go to a fucking psych ward, and it's like, okay, no, maybe my uterus is literally just destroying itself right now because it's asking where the fuck the baby is. And maybe if you experience this pain, like, do you remember the other TikToks of those little things that they put on men's stomachs that were like period pain? Mm-hmm. And the men are like dying at like a level 2. Like, I think it's things like that that are like really helpful in being like, yo, this is what we deal with. And we're not saying we want you to like feel our pain or like whatever, but you could be a little bit empathetic and curious and like understand what we're dealing with.
Yeah, emphasis on the curious. Like, I don't even need your empathy half the time, but it's like, I'd like you to just be knowledgeable.
Right.
But this TikTok we found, we thought it was so funny. It's basically just like a boyfriend doing the bare minimum, and because of like the stigma, the girlfriend's like in tears because she's so happy, whatever. So let's watch this TikTok quickly.
Okay, if you guys are listening audio-wise, I know it just sounds like music, but there's words on the screen where pretty much he went and got her pads. Yeah, he went and got her pads. He got her like a Diva cup. He washed her blankets, all of this stuff. And like, it is like, I've had like guys that I've been with before like do things like this for me and be like extra gentle with me, but it's like cute, but it's also given me the ick in some senses. Because I'm like, why are you tiptoeing around me like I'm about to bite your fucking head off? Like, they can be like, do you need food? Like, the guy that I'm with right now, like, he would say, like, oh, do you want ice cream? And I'm like, it's not every bitch just craves fucking ice cream when she's on her period.
Like, we're not
it's
pregnant.
Sweet. Right. It's sweet that you think that, and it's nice that you would want to do that for me. But it's just like the things that they think sometimes I'm like, what?
Yeah, because the reality is periods are so different. Like, some people get cramps so bad they literally can't go to work. Some people don't get cramps. Like, it's literally so different. Some people get cravings for salt, sugar. Some people don't get cravings at all. Like, it's literally... So it's not like a one fits all. Like, don't just assume that she's like crying and hungry, because it could be like other shit. But it's like, okay, well, what the men are like, what do you want us to do? You don't want us to like show up with gifts. You don't like blah, blah, blah. But it's like, I think I just want someone that is knowledgeable about, like, someone I can communicate my symptoms to.
Yeah.
And maybe my thing is, like, I really always crave, like, a vanilla iced coffee in the afternoon, and, like, get me one of those. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I remember my ex who would always be like, oh, your stomach hurts. And that would piss me off so much. Because
do you
I'm
need
like,
water?
It's not my stomach. Yeah, do you need water?
I need water regardless, because I'm a human being. So, yes, I need water. But this other TikTok we thought was funny. It's really just this woman kind of describing how different types of men act when women are on their period. So it's like the like emotionally standoffish one, the overachiever. So it's pretty funny. So let's watch it.
All right.
This is how men act when I get my period.
Oh, babe, I got my period.
And
nothing.
yeah, here comes all the excuses why it can be difficult for a week.
Like, why are women still getting away with this? Get away with what?
You just get to act crazy and blame it on your period.
What happens if I go through something this week, huh?
Don't expect me to treat you any different just because you got your period.
Oh, babe, I got my period.
Just take a painkiller.
I did.
Oh, then have a tea.
Do you mind making it?
Just get up, make a tea, get your hot water bottle, and you'll be fine.
Okay.
The hot water bottle's in the top shelf.
Babe, I got my period.
Oh, do you want me to leave?
No, why would I want you to leave?
You just get kind of oversensitive and aggro.
So leaving is your solution?
Okay, clearly not. What do I do now?
Baby, I got my period.
Oh, you got pain?
Yeah, real bad.
Me too, my back's killing me from work. I'll give you a massage, and then you mind giving me a massage as well?
I kind of feel...
Bit of a double standard going on there. Like, I get you have your period, but I'm also going through things.
I get that, it's just my first day.
Yeah, and it was a hard day at work for me, so offers there. If you're happy to massage me, I'll massage you.
Baby, I got my period.
Say no more. I actually bought all your favorite snacks from last period, so we didn't have a repeat. I get you situated on the couch with some tea and snacks. I've got some work to do, but as soon as I'm finished, I will come back and give you a full rub.
Really?
Yeah, baby, I got you. It's the first day.
Okay, so this is hilarious because I feel like I've probably dealt with every single type of this guy. Except maybe the dream guy. Like, I feel like I've had shit, like, close to the dream guy where they've done certain things right. Yeah. But the whole, like, okay, I had a tough day at work, too. Where's my massage? Or, like, whatever the fuck. That is just so, like, it's just, like, why do we have to play the comparison game? And, like, also, it's usually the partners in my experience where it's like I'm very like empathetic of their issues when they have a hard day, and like I would like try to help them out, make them dinner, like make their life easier. So it's like, why when I'm going through shit, just because you think periods aren't that deep, you're not there for me.
Right. It's just like the more I think about it, I'm like, this whole thing is fucking so stupid. Like, why is periods such a fucking thing? But I think it's like historically.
Yeah.
There's been a big stigma, but what we're about to transition into is that period sex can actually be very intense, and there's history of period blood being very sacred in a lot of cultures.
So the next poll that we asked you guys is, do you think period sex feels more intense and intimate than sex off of your period? And this one's pretty close, pretty 50-50.
I love a 50-50.
Right, we love a 50-50 poll. 45% of y'all said no, sex is always intimate and intense. And 55% of y'all said yes, period sex honestly hits different. And I think I voted for that one, but I'm a little on the fence just because of of how we phrased it. Like, I think sex is not always intimate and intense, though, because I've had, like, meaningless sex that's like...
It's not.
Yeah, I agree with you. But I've also had period sex that wasn't intimate and intense, for sure.
Totally.
But I will share this one. It was with the guy that I'm like with now, but like last summer oh my God, guys, like it's such a moment. But he's a little iffy about the period sex at first. Like now, not really, because like we've been together for on and off for a minute. But like we went to the pool at night, like late at night. It's a full moon.
So hot.
And we fucked in the pool.
Yeah.
Like me, like on top, like him holding me like on top. And I swear to God, I had like one of the best orgasms because it was just like, and guys, don't freak out. Oh, I'm in the pool, whatever. Like my bleeding was like stopped. Like it was like the end. You know what I'm saying? But I felt like it was just like such an intimate, like connecting moment. And it was like right when I got back from LA too. Like I think it was like right around that time. But that was really like intimate and intense. The fact that it was a full moon, because there's all that like, I don't know if it's mythology or real or whatever with the moon and like your cycles and like waves and stuff.
Yeah.
So like I feel like the fact that it was a full moon was more intense. But yeah, I do feel like I feel more of a deeper connection with partners when they're like okay and like comfortable with it, because it's like we talked about earlier, you're not just accepting, but you're loving and appreciating my body during all of my cycles and all of my fucking bodily fluids. And that makes me feel like safe and comfortable. So
yeah, I think it's interesting because I definitely think I've had some of the most intimate sex in my life while I was on my period with someone, with my first girlfriend and my first and only ex-boyfriend. But to the most intimate sex I've ever had, I wasn't on my period. Like, I'm thinking of this one specific time with my ex-boyfriend, and like we would always be rough, but this time we were actually like kissing while we were doing it, and literally tears coming down my eyes because I don't know how to have sensual sex. Like, it makes me very emotional.
Yeah.
But anyways, that shit. So and that wasn't really the question, but I do think that sex on your period hits different. Like,
yes, for
fucking sure. Whether it's intimate and intense or not. Like, it's something you're thinking about, and it's definitely not like an everyday sex experience, because you're like, I'm on my period, you're thinking about it, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I think it definitely hits different. But I really like how it's 50-50. And I think maybe a lot of people that voted sex is always, maybe we should have definitely phrased it differently. Sex is always intimate and intense. Maybe they haven't had sex on their period.
Right.
We have to consider that too, because not everyone has. It's not something everyone does. I mean, we saw at the beginning that one bitch in the HuffPost article was like, that's disgusting. So
yeah, and
I don't think that's wrong, because again, it's her body. But when guys say it's disgusting, it's different because they don't experience it.
Right.
Do I look down at my like bloody tampon and think like, oh, this is so, yes,
right,
it's gross. I mean, a little bit. It's that, like, it's not, I'm not like, I get rid of it quickly, but it's my body, so I'm allowed to think like that.
Right. And it's just so much, I feel like for me, it's not just the sex itself, because like maybe when I'm not on my period, sex might feel better, or I might feel more confident, or all of that. But like the fact that like a partner is like open to that and doesn't give a fuck, and like that makes your connection more intimate.
Exactly. That safe space that we want to nurture and grow in together.
Yes.
Fuck. All right. So now let's talk about some bleeding shit, just bleeding in general, and how period blood can be seen as very sacred and powerful in some cultures. In general, throughout our research, I just want to put this out there, that period blood being sacred comes from like a lot of different cultures. There's no way I could get, like, we're not all that podcast. Yeah. But I just want to say, like, the Cherokee people, Buddhism, Hinduism, some parts of West Africa, other indigenous peoples, like, there's a lot of cultures that have believed this, do believe this. And I just want to make sure that's known, because that's important,
Right.
Like, this isn't like white America that we're talking about right now, bitches. So this article from Forbes basically talks about just this. So it says, although the average woman spends 6 years of her life menstruating, around 500 times in total, menstruation is still heavily misunderstood, stigmatized, and taboo. You might be convinced it has always been this way. Women have always been treated as less than men. Periods have always been seen as dirty and gross, but you'd be wrong. Pre-patriarchal times, less than 5,000 years ago, modern religion did not exist, and the great goddess was worshipped, which meant that women were worshipped. So this article is saying that your menstrual gift is a blessing.
Right.
So continue reading. It says, this knowledge is pure feminine power, which is a massive threat to the patriarchy and how our current society operates. There's a reason you are pushed into feeling fear, shame, and embarrassment over your period. This disconnects you from your body, your sacred life force, your Shakti energy, your womb wisdom, and from your sexual energy too. When you're disconnected from your body and intuition, you become much easier to manipulate and control. When you believe that the blood your uterus produces, which flows out of you through your vagina, is disgusting, you start to think that your body and your sexual organs are something to be ashamed of. Bro,
yes.
This is huge because it's nothing in our world is coincidental. Truly, because to say that men profit off of us being embarrassed of our period could be a reach, but it's kind of true. You are I don't know. This article really, I was like, damn, bitch. We need to connect to our fucking womb wisdom.
Yeah, because I really feel like for me, as terrible as I feel, the couple days before my period, for me, the last couple days of my period and right after are always when I have a surge of energy and I'm ready to do all my to-do lists. And I feel like it's that cycle of rebirth, regeneration. You feel like you are really I'm a goddess, I'm doing this. And if we just paid attention to what society tells us, you would just feel bad about all of that. But once you get more in tune with your body and you pay attention to your cycles and how you're feeling, use that as your power. It's amazing.
Right. And it's just because it's life creation is amazing. Even if you're someone that doesn't want to have kids, it's still cool that you could if you wanted to.
Right.
And at the end of the day, it's men don't have that. They don't have the capability to be the house of a newborn baby. They have capabilities of creation, blah, blah, blah. We need the sperm to do our thing too, but it really is a beautiful thing. And I think that lesbians see that and know that. And I think that's why in my queer relationships, it's never even been a fucking situation. But with men it is because of, their fear for it, their ignorance about it.
Their fear of women's power. It really comes down to that.
Women are powerful, y'all. I know that you guys know that, but I need we really are on top.
And we're tough,
if I was a
too.
man, I would want to be a woman for sure.
Right, because the way that we've been socialized to have all this shame about it and oh, you're crazy on your period, oh, you're not thinking straight, all of that.
It's for a reason.
It's
bitch.
for a reason. And it's also if you flip it and you think about women have a way higher pain tolerance than men. That can be proven through childbirth. Even men getting tattoos. It's known by tattoo artists that women can tolerate pain more than men can. So it's once you realize that all these gender codes of who's stronger and who's tougher is bullshit, and you pay attention to the actual your biology and stuff like that. And obviously we're talking about cis women. I don't want to minimize the fact that trans women are still very much a thing, non-binary people, all of that. But I think it's important to also just celebrate cis women and what our body goes through.
Right. And being a woman does not equal having your period. And we totally know that. There's people that don't identify as women who get their period. They still have that, biological gift, whatever the gender they identify as, so. But exactly, we do want to celebrate all women, cis women, trans women, non-binary women. I mean, it's really just
femmes,
femmes, hey. But another excerpt from another article we want to share says the following. In ancient tribes, a woman's period blood was considered sacred, powerful, and a source of feminine strength that increased our psychic abilities.
Ooh.
The red tent ritual, where women on their periods were separated from the rest of their tribe, was implemented because men saw them as too dangerous and in tune with the spirit world. And then the author said, this whole notion screams red flag to me. In my opinion, we were only deemed dangerous because our feminine energy during this time of the month is intimidating to a man who is weak and does not understand a woman or her cycle. I'm fortunate enough to have a thoroughly understanding boyfriend who, through his own journey of discovery, sees the beauty and potency women bring with their monthly bleeds. Not only is period sex just pleasurable for us, but we also find it deeply connecting.
That's so beautiful. And like what she said, because I was thinking about that. Like, I've heard, I don't really know what tribes or like where in the world that this happens, but I've heard that they would like seclude women, make them free bleed in like a tent or a hut and just be like, okay, like, bye, you're good.
I read that too. And it's like they like worship them. Like, it's like they bring them gifts. Like, this is like your time. This is a powerful time. I mean, like, where you are in the world and where you grow up is everything. Because if we grew up in one of those ancient tribes, it's like, it's just like, it's society, man. In one of our comments, people are like, you guys are so mean about society. I'm like, who wouldn't be? Like, we have so many problems because of all this shit. Like, so, but yeah, I think it's really cool. And it's something that we never would have maybe thought about unless we had a podcast. So that's what I love about
we learned so much. And one other thing I'll just say is I like how at the end she was like, I'm fortunate enough to have a thoroughly understanding boyfriend who, through his own journey of discovery, sees the beauty and the potency. Like, I think that's really important too, because like, I think I've gotten like sensitive in senses with like boyfriends in the past where I'm like, you know, like, oh, they just don't get it. Like, I don't want to explain it to them. Like, and I don't think we need to. Like, I don't think you need to sit down and teach your boyfriend fucking everything. Like, he needs to be curious and do his own work. But like, you need to discover. But like, you need to unlearn certain things, and so does he. And like that journey, we talked about it in the weaponized incompetence episode. Like, we talked about it in male loneliness. Like, I feel like it's a constant thing of like, we have these societal norms, these codes of gender, and like, we're not going to just solve it in a day. You know, like, we got to work with other people to like get to a better place. And but if you find someone who gets it, go.
Right. And we won't even probably solve it in a lifetime, in many lifetimes. Like, this is like deep shit, but it's like the best thing we can do is exactly like really work to find relationships like these that we deserve, and just, you know, talk about this shit with other people. Like, you know, we really break down the fucking period stigma, bitch. But now I want to, so we talked, that's, you know, this was a lot about bleeding and all of that, but specifically now we're going to talk about what different cultures think about period sex, because it's very cool. So this article we found is called "Some Sects of Hinduism Encourages Sex During Your Periods." So I'm going to read a few excerpts from this article. The association of menstruation with sacredness is reinforced in tantric practices such as yoni puja, worship of the female yoni, where in a ritual, worship is carried out not only of a woman, but also of her yoni or vagina, which is perceived to be a symbol of the cosmic yoni from which the entire universe has emerged. Menstrual blood is, in fact, considered pure and sacred and plays a very important role in these tantric rituals. The Bowls of Bengal, a syncretic group of mystic singers and dancers whose religious beliefs are influenced by
Vaishnava,
Satka, Tantric Buddhism,
Samakaya,
and Sufi belief system.
Sorry if we're butchering that.
Yes, we are, but read the text on the screen if you're watching visually. And lastly, the bowels perform sexual intercourse during menstruation as a means to attain divine bliss and spiritual emancipation. It is important to note that this sexual intercourse indulged as a part of Deha Sadhana is purely a devotional act and should not be confused with sexual intercourse indulged in for the sake of sensual pleasure or conception. So it's like, this sex is not to reproduce. It's literally to like fucking find divinity. Like,
it's like a holy act. Like, it's like a ritual.
Worship. Yeah. So I mean, it's so fucking cool. I mean, and this is like people's reality and their culture, and I think it's so beautiful.
Yeah, when it mentioned tantric rituals, I think that would be a really good topic for us to do, like tantric sex.
Okay.
Have you heard of that before?
No.
It's not really a kink, but like it's pretty much what I've seen from it is like you like sit across from each other and you like look into each other's eyes, and it's like a way of like forming sexual intimacy, like kind of without touch at first, and like soul connection. Yeah, it's kind of hot. It's kind of scary, but it seems like very interesting. But that's so cool that it's also like literally a spiritual practice.
Right. I remember my ex-boyfriend and I used to put each other's hands on our hearts, close our eyes, and try to connect our breathing. This is why I was so in love with him, bro. Because yes, he was a mess, but we also did shit like that.
Yeah.
Which made me believe that it was for real, like the fucking liar.
No, that's one of my favorite things to like when you're laying on their chest and like listen to their heartbeat. I'm just like,
there's something about like having your breathing be connected. Like it's fucking intense. I mean, he
Yeah.
was big on meditation, so I feel like that's why he was like, let's do this. But it's beautiful. I love that. And now let's talk a little bit about a different culture, talking about sexual activity during menstruation in the Holy Bible.
I think it's menstruation. Is it menstruation?
I
It
don't
has
know.
a U, but I thought it was menstruation. Let us know, guys.
I think it's hard for me to say menstruation and menstruation.
I thought it's menstruation. Maybe I've been saying it wrong forever, though, because there is a U.
We've said the word so many times.
Yeah.
I'm starting to like lose it. So I'm sorry if that's bothering you guys. I get that. But the Holy Bible and Quran, how do you say that?
Quran.
This Catholic school. How do you say it?
Oh, Quran is Muslim.
Quran.
Yeah.
Oh, well. But basically, we're going to read an excerpt, and it's the manuscript entitled Association Between Sexual Activity During Menstruation and Endometriosis.
Which I have, guys.
A case control study, and it was published in the International Journal of Fertility and Sterility.
Sterility. Like sterile, like, yeah.
Like, this is why we're trying so hard. Anyways. According to the findings of this study, there was an association between sexual activities leading to orgasm during menstruation and endometriosis. These findings revealed the medical value and health benefit of the restriction of sexual contact during menstruation by major religions of the world, particularly in the third book of the
Pentateuch.
In the third book of the Torah, known as Leviticus,
which is Judaism, I believe. Judaism follows the Torah, but
right.
Yeah.
Yes, I did know that as well. It states that a woman undergoing menstruation is perceived as unclean for 7 days, and whoever touches her shall be unclean until evening. Moreover, if a man actually lies with her so that her menstrual impurity is on him, he shall be unclean for 7 days, and every bed on which he lies shall be unclean. In other words, if a man has sexual relations with a menstruating woman, he is not perceived as unclean only until evening, but for 7 days. When 7 days pass from the beginning of menstruation, the woman is regarded as clean, and thus sexual contact is permitted. So, Jesus Christ. And we got some more. In another biblical passage, it is stated that if a man has sexual relations with a woman during her menstrual period, both of them must be cut off from the community, for they have both been exposed the source of her blood flow. In Christianity, sexual contact that occurs during menstruation is also considered as prostitution, since its unique purpose is usually the satisfaction of man's manly sexual instinct and the achievement of pleasure. And lastly, other risks from sexual intercourse with a menstruating woman, except endometriosis, include the development of sexually transmitted diseases, increase in the flow of menstrual blood, and an undesirable pregnancy. So, if you guys don't know me, I'm not religious at all. So that's why this is foreign language to me, whether it be Judaism, Muslim, Christianity. I don't fucking know anything. So this is wild to me, but it's not surprising. And the whole unclean, the prostitution, I mean, it's wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I've said it in other episodes before, but if you guys are new here, like, I have a big background in religion. I went to Jewish preschool, 2 Catholic schools, and I was raised Protestant Christian. I've also dated Muslim people. I've been best friends with Buddhist people. Like, I know a lot about religion. I don't personally subscribe, but I do want to be respectful of people who, like, are religious, and if this is what you believe, like, okay. But it is important to also note, like, how much of, like, all this religious shit is very patriarchal, and how it, like, reiterates that feeling of, like, shame and control of women. And, like, since I was so young when I was growing up in Judaism and also Catholicism and Christianity, like, there wasn't as much of, like, these certain passages, like, in my religious upbringing, but I do remember, like, being a virgin being a big thing. Like, you know, Mary, who gets pregnant with God and Jesus as a baby, like, she's a virgin. Like, it's a big thing to, like, wait until marriage, you're a virgin. Like, there was Mary Magdalene, who's, like, a prostitute, and then she, like, wiped her sins away when Jesus went on the cross. Like, there's a lot about just women's sexuality that's kind of fucked up, and I think it's just used to, like, you know, put down other women, like we talked about earlier. Like, men, I think, are afraid of it. Like, a lot of these religions worship men, even though, you know, Mary gave birth to Jesus or whatever the fuck. I don't know as much about the Quran and everything, but yeah, I hate how much of America just follows so much of these, like, puritanical Christian views, and just makes us feel so much shame for it because it's not right.
And it's the contrast of other cultures for me.
Yeah.
Like, we read about it being so sacred and beautiful, and then we read about it being unclean, the exact opposite. So, and I think the United States is enforced by Christianity. Is that the largest religion in the U.S., isn't it? I don't know.
I mean, it was built on Christian principles,
right,
like the Declaration of Independence, and yeah.
So it makes sense that the whole unclean thing is here. And it goes as far as to say, it's like, if a man is messing with a woman on her period, like, he's very unclean too.
By association, which is, like, insane. So it's like, it's also a way, like we say all the time, like, patriarchy does not just, like, oppress women, but it oppresses men as well, because it's like, by association, you're also removed from society and seen as not a real man or whatever the fuck, which is so fucked up.
Right. But yeah, let's move on from that. And now we're going to talk about soul ties and blood magic, but we're going to explore soul ties first. I didn't know the whole, you know, connection with period sex to soul ties personally before this episode. I knew a soul tie was, you know, an emotional, spiritual, physical connection with someone. Like, I know about soulmates, soul ties, like all of that, but I didn't specifically know about the period sex thing. So we did go to TikTok to kind of give us some explanations. So I have 2 videos, and let's play those.
Okay, so this video is just me explaining that video. So all sexual intimacy creates some sort of soul tie. And menstrual blood has binding magical properties, which means period sex is blood magic. And that creates strong binds between individuals. He could be very obsessed with you, and this could go in a good way and also a bad way. He can become really possessive over you and all of that stuff.
Period sex. Let's talk about period sex. It's literally a blood ritual. You are binding yourself and your womb to that person. You may notice if you've ever had period sex with someone that y'all just never stop fucking with each other. They always texting, they always calling. Months, years might even pass, but you might notice that that person is always around. That's because you binded yourself to that person. And honey, cut the cord, because if not, that person will be lingering forever.
Okay, so first thing I want to say is shout out to my bitch Lo for this idea, because she's honestly the person that put me onto soul ties from, like, blood magic and period sex, because I was talking to her about someone I had fucked with, and she was like, oh, like, you have a soul tie, you need to have, like, a cord cutting ceremony. And I was like, oh, like, what's that? And, like, she's, like, big into witchcraft and, like, knows all of this stuff. So I just want to shout out to her if she's listening. She's a real ass bitch. But yeah, this stuff is like super interesting. And I think when we talk about like religion, we also have to acknowledge like witchcraft is a big thing. And like, you know, like women like using this for, and witchcraft can be used for like pure positive like stuff, but it can also be used to like manipulate and all of that. And it can also be used unintentionally. Like I've heard some people say like witchcraft only really works when you're being intentional about it, but then like soul ties can also happen if you're being unintentional. And that's why you need to perform like a cord cutting ceremony, like sage, light a candle, like all of this stuff. I've never personally done a cord cutting ceremony. I've done some spiritual things with like sage and like candles and like my body and like whatever. Yeah. But you're more into this spiritual stuff.
Yeah. I do not like to manipulate my relationships with people through practicing of witchcraft for many reasons. But the biggest thing is I really do want things to come naturally, things that I believe the universe is gifting me without me really doing anything. Like, not like I don't have to work hard, but I mean like a person's going to come into my life and I'm going to be with them. Like I'm not going to, you know, so, but I have done spells before to attract or to achieve manifestation things like money, jobs, happiness, things like things like that. I did it a lot when I was at the strip club and I was a sex worker. I was doing OnlyFans too, because I was very money, and I was very like, I don't know, I was kind of in my spiritual era for sure, less than I am now. But this kind of stuff scares me. Blood magic scares me. I'll be completely honest with you guys because I believe in it so much. Yeah. And I would never want to manipulate the universe like that. I just don't want to. And I don't think there's anything wrong with doing it, but I just don't. I would never recommend for someone to do something like that. And the unintentional versus intentional is super cool because through research, it's like, yeah, like you don't know what you're really doing when you're fucking your partner on period sex. But I do like to, I feel like if we think about magic being intentional, it feels like a lot more safer world to be in because the unintentional stuff is a little bit scary. And especially as simple as manifesting things, like if you say like, I look fat, right, you're always going to feel fat. Not that fat is bad. That was just an example. Yeah. So that's just how it is. But no, I love spells. If you guys are more curious about spells that I've done or anything, I can recommend books. I have great books on magic. So definitely let us know. But regardless, I think it's fucking cool. I think it's really cool. And I think humans are a lot more spiritual and magical than everyone lets themselves believe. I think we really are powerful, whether you have a yoni vagina or not. Yes. But I think having a vagina in period, you're a little bit, you're intuitive. It's a beautiful thing. But I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I will say too, like I've had like men that I've been fucking with before, like when I've brought up like astrology or like 222 or like shit like that, they'll be like, whoa, don't bring that around me. Like they're very afraid of like women's spiritual capabilities. And I feel like that's really like interesting as well. Like they're really afraid of like women performing like witchcraft on them because I feel like low key they know our superpowers. But I don't think it's anything to be like, use your magic, use your spirituality like in a healthy way. And like, I don't really believe in like ill-intended magic or anything like that. Like you said, to like manipulate relationships.
It's like, I believe that it happens and it works, but we don't support that. Like we don't like hexing and all of that. That's not something I ever want to explore personally.
I feel like there are situations where you could hex someone for valid reasons,
like a rapist.
Yeah,
sure.
Like yeah,
But that hasn't happened.
Yeah, no, but like
Knock on wood, But anyways, bringing it back to soul ties, we did a poll. So.
Yes, we asked you guys, do you think soul ties from period sex are real? This was another very close, even more 50-51. We had 48% of you guys say yes and 52% said no. And I honestly think soul ties from sex in general are a thing, but I think it depends on the type of sex. And I feel like it's the same for me with period sex as well. Like if you have the intention of building a soul tie with this person, I think that it's much more likely to happen. I think I did vote yes. But I don't think it always just means you're going to have a soul tie with someone.
Agree. Because I think, like, when I think about my ex-boyfriend, like, we definitely had something. And even after we broke up, like a year and a half after we broke up, he was like, I still feel pulled to you.
Yeah.
Because I would always joke with him. Again, I was in my witch era when we were together. So I was like, I would pretend like I did, even though I'm telling you, I never did anything. But I also remember when I was in college and I was on, like, abroad in LA, abroad, quote unquote. I was living in LA and going to school. And I met this bitch out at the club. It was a woman. And we went back to her place. We was like in Pasadena, which if you guys don't know, it's like fucking random. I went all the way there from Hollywood with this bitch. And I was like, I still struggle if this was a sexual assault situation. I'm going to be so honest with you guys because basically I told her I didn't want her to eat me out, but then she kept pushing. So I was like, okay, fine, do it. And then I fell asleep while she was doing it, but she didn't stop. And I was on the end of my period.
Yeah.
Do I have a soul tie with this bitch? No. Like that situation was like horrible. So I'm just like, that's happened. And did we, arguably, we did have sex. Like, eating pussy is sex. So it was like, you know.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's dangerous to, like, even when we say, like, oh, like, I don't really subscribe to the belief that, like, you know, every time you're having sex with someone, you're exchanging energy and then they're stuck in you forever. Like, I've felt like that in certain periods of my life and, like, made myself feel guilty for the people that I've had sex with or situations of questionable sexual assault or whatever. And, like, I think it comes down to that idea of manifestation and, like, you are what you think and you are what you believe. And, like, if you want to not have a soul tie with that person, just focus on that. It doesn't need to be a thing, and don't let other people manipulate you. I believe
that so much. And I think we have to, because magic is beautiful, but it can also be very dark and scary. And it's valid to be afraid of it if people are afraid of witchcraft. I do think witchcraft has, like, a stigma of being just bad because of, like, historically Christian blah blah blah. But I think that it's an intense thing, but at the end of the day, I like what you said. It's like you have to really just intentionally believe something, and that's
reality. You create your reality.
I definitely had sex with people I didn't want to have sex with at the strip club because whatever. Yeah. If I had believed that all those people were giving me energy, I would have exploded.
You would be depressed. You have to you can't, like, keep that in your body. They're
not touching my soul.
Right.
They're just fucking my body. And I think as sex workers, past sex workers, we're always going to think about that. Yeah. Like, I can't leave that out. So I'm definitely in agreement with you on that. And this is just a side note, but I did some brief research. I just, like, typed soul ties into YouTube. And there's, like, dead ass videos, like, of people doing step by step how to create a soul tie through this period sex blood magic. And honestly, Fiji, like, I think that's really problematic.
Yeah.
Do you? I don't think you should encourage that.
And that's what I was talking about with, like, the men talking about, like, there's that stigma of, like, oh, the grand rising bitches or, like, whatever, because they're, like, oh, like, afraid of them or whatever. And I think for men, I'm like, okay, like, again, it comes down to you create your reality. I really think that you can, like, dismiss that shit if you don't want to. But yeah, I don't really think that it's right or okay. I do have friends that, like, subscribe to that, so I'm like, to each their fucking own, I guess. But I don't think me personally.
You do it, that's fine. But my issue is, I do not think you should go on the internet, and teach people, like, you can teach people, but to promote it and say this is how you get him to fall in love with you. Yeah. As if blood magic is something that's lightly. I mean, it's not.
Well, and also, like, I don't think we should be trying to make people fall in love with us that don't want to fall in love with us. Like, I think that that's, like, manipulation and coercion and, like, not, like, okay. Like, I think that they're going to fall in love with you naturally if, like, that's what it is.
And you want that more than someone that was literally in a spell? Like, I don't know. And maybe that's just part of growing up, but I'm like, I don't want that.
I'm in between because I'm like, in a lot of senses, I'm very for witchcraft, and a lot of it because I think it's very feminist and it's very anti-patriarchy, like, patriarchal religion and all of that stuff. But I definitely agree, like, when you're manipulating, like, energies for, like, not the best reasons, I think we got to be careful.
we're going to move more into blood magic now. So we do want to put out a disclaimer that we are not professionals. We are not certified in this, and we do not believe you should practice blood magic unless you do the proper research, you're in a safe space, you know what the fuck you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, let's just be safe. We have never done this. We don't know. So we did research because we didn't know. And so we looked at this article that's magical uses for menstrual blood, and I will read some. So one type is called waning magic. A blood magic practitioner I know refers to menstrual blood as dead blood, which means it's ideally used for waning or lessening magic. Waning magic includes protection, releasing, and banishing spells. Another type is they use menstrual blood for self-empowerment magic. Using one's own menstrual blood can be a powerful addition to spells of self-empowerment and
sovereignty.
Thank you. Intentions of reclaiming your power, releasing energy, or that isn't yours or isn't serving you, and truly stepping into your power are all amplified with the use of menstrual blood. The last one is self-dedication magic. Conjure the image in your mind of signing a contract in blood. Pretty serious, right? Menstrual blood can be used for signing contracts to yourself, literally or energetically. Whether you're making a big promise to yourself or dedicating yourself to a goal for your well-being, working with menstrual blood creates binding agreements with yourself, which empowers your dedication and manifestation toward your quote-unquote contract. So I think it's pretty cool, and it makes sense. I mean, it's obviously considered and arguably just is a sacred thing, menstrual blood in general, so it makes sense why it could amplify some cool spells.
Yeah, like I think if you guys are using these on your own to manifest more money, manifest like more happiness, like all of that stuff, totally cool, encourage that. But again, be careful with your relationships with other people, and still be careful in general because, you know, this is intense.
Yeah. We didn't really want to include this with, you know, the thought of, oh, we're going to do this, other people should do this. It's more just like it's cool. Like, it's interesting to know about when you think about menstrual blood being so dirty, quote unquote, in our society. It's like cool to see the other flip side. You know what I mean?
Right. Let's reclaim it.
We also went to Reddit to, you know, there's literally this post that's like, what the fuck is blood magic? And there's a bunch of comments, you know, explaining, and we liked this one. So this person said, blood magic can be a wide variety of different things depending on setting and system. The first type I'll go with is blood manipulation. It's most commonly the act of being able to reach into the body of others or yourself and controlling the blood within them, therefore greatly influencing their actions. Oftentimes, this is a subset of water or body magic. Now, this is scary. The other one was like, you know, self-empowerment, fucking love. This is blood manipulation. Like, I'm going to be that I'm going to control your soul.
Yeah.
You know? Okay, moving on. She says, oftentimes blood is synonymous with life force, and therefore the manipulation of it would be considered necromancy. Which is manipulation of life and death, is what that word means. In many settings, people can use blood to fortify their lives or sour the life force of others to cause disease. And then lastly, sometimes blood isn't the main part of magic, and it's simply just an ingredient or a cost to conduct a different form of magic. A really common example is sacrificing your blood for some form of ritual, especially when summoning a demon or spirit. Maybe the act of using your blood specifically binds you to the creature you summoned, and the more you sacrifice, the more control you have over said creature. This is what I'm saying. Like, this is scary to me.
Yeah.
And when I was on my witch journey, I, you know, like came across a lot of people that either, you know, worship the devil or practice blood magic. And I really don't think there's anything wrong with it. Like, faith is faith. But I personally, I want to stay away from that.
Yeah, I'm not too cool on this stuff myself. Like, I mean, I grew up with a dad who fucking loves horror shit and like all that stuff. I've been very like emo on the side of like I like the death shit. I like the emo shit. I don't mind horror movies, like all of that. But like, I think when you start like performing these rituals with an ill intent, like that's scary. Aesthetics is cool. Like appreciating how like there can be metaphors with this stuff and like how it goes against patriarchy and all of that is cool. But yeah, the blood magic trying to take control of someone else's body and all, I'm not as cool.
I'm just like, we said it, let's move on from it. That's kind of how I feel about it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So let's get into listener stories, shall we?
Let's do it. I'll read the first one. So the first listener said, I think it hurts, sad face. I can't do it, TBH, but I also want them to be attached. I'm toxic. And I feel her, like, honestly, like, I feel like I'm kind of the same way. Like, not really, though. Like, I'm like, I want them to be attached, like, if it's the person I'm in love with, and, like, they also are in love with me, too. Like, I think this was, like, a conversation I had with her in the DMs. But, like, now that I've learned more about the actual blood magic, like, the actual rituals and shit, I'm like, okay, I'm not going that far. Like, you know?
Right. And I'm like, that's what, because I've never really known about this. And so, like, I just thought having sex on your period, it's intimate and intense because, like, it's vulnerable.
Yeah.
Not like all the soul tie shit. So it's like fun to joke about that, but now it's like it's getting really real.
It's getting
and
dark.
I don't want them to be attached like by a binding
because
contract.
That's dangerous. Like I will say, like I'm like always iffy about talking about this shit, but like I think my ex's mom was like a witch, and like I think there was a lot of weird spiritual shit going on like when certain stuff happened, and like he went through psychosis and like all this weird shit happened, and I really genuinely feel like she performed spells against me, and I felt like I was like haunted and like all that stuff at like certain points. So like I be very careful because I really feel like that like shit is
I don't
real.
think you've ever even shared that with me.
Yeah, we can talk about it like off camera at some point, but it was definitely intense.
Yeah, no, that's real. Okay, I feel like, yeah, I already said how I feel. Moving on. Next one says, this next listener said, fucking on period is disgusting. Just wait the 5 days. Okay, sir. I don't know if it's a man.
Is it a man or is it? I think it was a man. When a man says that, it's just kind of like an ick. It's just like, damn, like, how do you treat your girl then when she is on her period? Like, I get.
So you think I'm disgusting? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry if that's a reach for some people, but I'm like, it's my period, my body, my disgusting. Like, no.
Right. And I get if it's not for you in your relationship, again, like, cool, let that be you. If you guys are both comfortable not waiting the 5 days, but I would be careful of going into relationships with women with that mindset because it's honestly an ick and it's pulling you guys further apart. So.
Totally.
Next one, someone said this man literally ate me out on my period and it was so good, but I was disgusted because, And I feel this. I've had a guy eat me out on my period too. It was funny because it was one guy that I was like fucking with for a while. And he was not the most comfortable with eating pussy. Like he was like a guy that didn't have the most experience eating pussy, but he was like committed to like learning. And I remember I was like, babe, like I'm on the end of my period. Like I don't think you really want to do that. And he was like, no, like I'm gonna do it. And, like, it was a good effort, but I don't think it was great. So, yeah, I'm not really for, like, it doesn't really turn me on. I don't think I could be, like, comfortable. But maybe in the right setting with the right person, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm 100% not down. I mean, I don't even like being eaten out in general, let alone on my period. Saya fucking Nara, baby. This next listener said, all I'm saying is having sex on my period feels like a massage for my uterus, which love that for you.
That's amazing because for me it rarely feels like that. Like hearing that it helps with cramps is really interesting for me because I think because of the PCOS and like endometriosis, like I am very like sensitive, and especially if their dick is big or it's really deep and it hits a certain part, like it really hurts. So, but that's like so interesting. Like every woman's body is so different. Like it could be such a different experience for different women. Next one, someone said, I just feel like it's sad when guys think it's gross and refuse to have sex on your period because that blood and bleeding is a part of me. And if you love me, you should love all of me. Also, we can't help it. It's not like regular blood. So I don't get the fear excuse. And fucking men, this is what we've been saying this whole fucking episode. I love you. I get you. Keep fucking saying that.
That is actually my like childhood, like really close family friend. I love her so much for submitting. And like, yeah, I literally read that and I was like, spot on. And I honestly think, like, I agree 100%. I think a lot of men would hear that blood and bleeding is a part of me, and if you love me, you should love all of me. I think a lot of men would be annoyed with that.
Yeah.
And think that that's a big reach. Like, oh, so you're going to love my semen. My semen's not going to gross you out. And I've been in a relationship with a man and can say that I did love his semen.
Yes.
Like, I loved swallowing it.
Yes.
I loved it being inside me. Like, yes.
Yes.
Like, do I think the average semen, do I think the average period, you know, it's like, it's the same, like.
But when you love someone and you're connected to them, like, it's so fucking different. Like we said, like, every dick is not the most attractive, but when you love that person, you love that dick. I want it in my pocket. I want it on a keychain. Like, I want to take it everywhere.
On a keychain. Oh my God, babe, you're popping off. But yeah, I love that. Okay, this is our last one. Kind of. Can it be used for magical purposes? Yes, absolutely. But look, if you have healthy emotional, spiritual boundaries, you use protection, condoms or otherwise, and most importantly, you cleanse, in all capital letters. There's no soul tie.
Yes.
There is no deity that can create an impenetrable. I tried so hard.
Yeah, that was right.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Impenetrable lock on your soul. Why would your period blood be able to? I don't know. That's just on some spiritual sex worker philosophy. Smiley face, shrug, emoji. Thanks for letting me ramble. I love your requests for feedback, talking at us, like whatever. I've had people tell me it's anxiety inducing to have period sex. From an AMAB, assigned male at birth perspective, they cognitively know everything is fine. I'm not hurt, they're not hurt, but seeing their junk come out covered in blood can be a very unsettling sight for them. Honestly, I get that, and it was said with such care that it didn't feel personal.
Yes, I love, like, first of all, everything she said was just, like, so on point with this whole fucking episode. But I completely feel her about, like, the men, like, assigned men at birth with your, like, dick or whatever, if you have blood on it. And if you say it, like, if you say it in a way where it's like, hey, like, I know, like, my brother has a really big phobia of shots. Like, I recently got a tattoo with him, and, like, he was super nervous, and, like, he's trying to overcome it, but it's, like, a genuine fear. Like, people have genuine fears about things, and, like, men, women, whatever, can have genuine fears about blood. Like, that is a common one. So if that's something that, like, he's afraid of, like, I can get that, and as long as they communicate it in a healthy way and you work on it together, like, I think it is understandable.
Right,
but also,
like, if you communicate that you're having a human experience in a healthy way of being fearful,
right,
that's cool. Yeah,
exactly. And, like, everything she said also about the, like, you control this, like, there's nothing, like, no deity, spirit, whatever, that's just, like, overtaking you. Like, we have so much control. Like, you create your own reality. Like, you can be in tune with your thoughts. Like, you can, what is that word that I can't think of? Like, dispose, like, reject that energy, like, dispel that energy. It's what they say in, like, witch shit. They'd be like, whatever that energy. Anyway, I'm going to think of it as soon as the episode's over.
What's the word?
Dispel, like, I dispose of.
Yeah. Get rid of, cleanse.
Reject.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think also, like, what she said, like, aligns a lot with what I've, like, read and learned about spirituality that I've really resonated with. And it's like, it's not the impenetrable lock on your soul. It's like, exactly.
Yes.
There's nothing that can't be undone. And you are, like, if you believe in deities, however you say it, and communicate with them, it's like you do everything. They don't just hand you things.
Right.
You know, so it is, so I don't know. I just love that.
And I love that this is coming from a sex worker too, because like we talked about, like, I feel like us as former sex workers, we have this, like, insecurity. It's easier to fall off that cliff of, like, my body's poisoned, like, but that's why it's even more important. And I find a lot of sex workers are very spiritual because of this. And, like, we're going to lead it.
Because you need that, though. Like, you need to be spiritual about it. Like, you can't be logical, because what you're doing is, like, you're in this space of things that are taboo. It's just, it's a wild place to be in. But yeah, I trust sex workers above all almost. So thank you for sharing. But I guess now we're gonna wrap this shit up. Every episode we wrap it up with saying what we're so wet, so dry about the topic, and also what we're confused about still, because we are not like fucking, you know what I mean? Like, we're always gonna be confused. I'm just rambling. I'm kind of you start, Fiji, please.
Okay, I am so wet about removing the stigma. Of course, like we say in every episode, it's all about these fucked up societal patriarchal stigmas, and we are removing them. We are talking about them. We are reclaiming our feminine source energy, our period blood, all of that. So I'm so wet about all of that. I'm very wet about learning about the different cultures that have like embraced it as well, because I think especially as like white women in America, it's so easy to just think about Christianity or like Western culture. But like when we're reminded that people in other parts of the world live very differently, it can help influence how we might see things. So that is super beautiful. I'm also definitely wet about, you know, again, I keep saying this and I feel like I sound like a pick-me, but like our male listenership has gone up, and any men that tune into listening to this episode that are interested in unlearning the stigma and interested in like learning about how they can be there for their woman better during her period and have a more intimate sex life, like that makes me like very happy and like motivated and all of that.
Yeah, I totally agree with all of that. I would say I'm just wet about women's bodies in general. I feel like a big theme throughout this episode was just talking about like how powerful and amazing a woman's body is, what it can do. And like, bitch, I'm queer. I want to get a woman's outline of a body, like
yes.
on a tattoo. I can't speak, but like, I love that. So I love like reading and learning about the different cultures and how they worship, you know, vaginas, menstrual blood. Like, it's fucking cool. Like, I don't fucking care what the haters think. Yeah, I'm just wet in general. I feel like I'm wet about, you know, kind of our stance when it comes to the whole period sex magic thing.
Yeah.
And I really just like that, like, we have more control than we think.
Yes.
Like, this is not, because a lot of spirituality spells witches, it's like a lot of fear because of these kind of things where it's like that impenetrable lock on your fucking, I mean,
yeah, that was a perfect way of saying that. She really
so
hit the
good,
fucking nail
so
on the
good.
head.
Like,
yeah.
honestly, we should have started with that
right.
because that was like the key to everything. But yeah, I'm just wet about all that.
And I am dry, of course, about the fucking stigma. I'm very dry about, you know, the men that are turned off by this shit. I'm dry about women also feeling shame and experiencing it, because I think it's something that we all go through at certain points in our life as we're growing up, when we're like young, like all of that. I'm also a little bit dry. We didn't talk about it as much, and I feel like this could be like a different episode, but like, I've always felt a different type of way, like having endometriosis and PCOS, how like sex and like my periods can be like more intense. Like period sex can hurt. It doesn't relieve my cramps. And like also like the emotions and the ups and downs can be like more intense, which falls through with that stereotype. So I'm dry about like all of that, and I just want for any women that are listening that struggle with that, like, don't feel a type of way that a lot of like the stuff out there says, you know, it can be healing for cramps. If it doesn't work for your body, it doesn't work for your body, and like that's okay. And also don't feel a type of way if you are a little bit more emotional on your period, because, you know, your periods are more intense than like the average woman. So like I'm dry about that. For sure. Also kind of dry about the blood magic shit to a point. I think it's dangerous whenever we like manipulate people's souls and like intent, like, yeah, you know, like but I am wet about like the cord cutting ceremonies and, like you said, like the ways that you can like dispel this energy and all of that.
Right. Yeah. Blood magic is great. Like, no, you know what? We're not going to use the word crazy anymore. That's a mental health stigma word. It's not crazy. It's just like, it's scary. It's scary. That's the right word. It's scary to me, but I'm definitely so dry about how, you know, like historically this has been a thing about periods, and there's really nothing we can do about that. And how it is so manipulated. Like, they want to manipulate women, so they'll use anything to make us feel like we're less than and dirty and all of that.
Yeah.
And I'm not like talking about men in this society. Like, I'm talking historically. Like, that's true. You can't argue with that. And I think the stigma lives on hard today still, you know? So it's definitely dry about that, dry about blood magic. And I would say lastly, I'm just dry too about like the girlfriends that have to deal with their boyfriends like not knowing what a tampon is or like being grossed out, because that's a hard situation to navigate. Because it is vulnerable and it is hurtful, but at the same time, like, you have every right to be angry, but like, I know you don't want to start a whole thing about that, but my heart goes out to that. Like, that sucks. Like, I've personally never been through that, and I don't think you should be with someone that thinks that, but if you are, like, I mean, I get it. I've been with people that don't do good things either. Like, hello. So yeah, dry about that.
Yeah. I think I'm confused about, in general, like, in almost every topic we cover lately, like how to have these conversations and how to make it better for like future generations. Where does sex education play in?
Bitch,
like,
we're
how are
doing
we?
it.
We're doing it. Like, we're doing it with this fucking podcast. But when it comes to like younger boys and like talking about periods, how much should we talk about? How much should we not? And I think it's up to parents to decide on their own. But I do think a big part of that should be in education as well. I'm also confused a little bit about the ways that period blood, period sex, all of that are used in like film literature and like metaphors and like books and all of that, because like we talked about Saltburn, I was iffy about the movie. A lot of people loved it. It could be read in different ways. It could have been read as like he's taking control and power over her. It could be read as he's appreciating her body wholly. That other movie that I can't remember the fucking name of, if you guys want to comment and let us fucking know. There's a lot of really good video essayists out there that talk specifically about films and like those type of metaphors, so they're probably better people to go to for that type of knowledge. But yeah, kind of confused about that, but like I think we've covered a lot and I've learned a lot, so feeling good.
Yeah.
I'm silly.
Oh my God, I love you. No, I agree. I'm definitely confused about what to teach boys or whatever in school, but I definitely think that them knowing everything is a lot better than them knowing nothing.
Right.
At the end of the day. Like, they got to know something. Like, I don't really know. Like, we know about erectile dysfunction.
Yes.
Like, what else do they deal with? Like, but yeah, so I'm confused about that. But I think, like, you just have to keep, like, talking about it and, like, not being afraid to, like, use your voice. Like, practice on a dude you don't give a fuck about.
Right.
Just, like, go up to him at the bar. What do you think of, like, I'm not even playing
Or
with
just,
you. Like,
yes, honestly.
like, just fucking do it. And just educate yourself more, too, because, like, at the end of the day, like, you create your own reality. Like, just because society sucks so bad, like, be a little delusional. Like, read about, you know, how, like, Buddhism and their beliefs and how they think about menstrual blood, and then just, like, roll with that. Like,
Yeah.
we can, you know, be a little delusional about it, and not be so intense. So, and just surround yourself with good people. That's what I have to say. But I think that about does it for this episode, bitches. But y'all already know the drill. Stop whatever you're doing right now. Please subscribe if you're on YouTube. Please follow if you're on Spotify or another platform. It would mean so much to us. Leave us a comment. Let us know if you liked the video. If you hated it, give us a like, share us. It would mean so much to us, for real. We pay attention to that shit hard. And then we're also on other social platforms like TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube Shorts too, at So Wet So Dry. The O's are zeros. Join our community, baby.
We're lit. But yes, join our community of confused pussies, bitches. If you guys are listening on Spotify, please rate us 5 stars. It really helps us be boosted in the fucking algorithm. We also have listener support on Spotify, 99 cents, $4.99, or $9.99 a month. It really helps us pay for all the equipment that we need, trips, opportunities to create better content for you guys. We want to do merch and stickers and all of that good stuff. Even if you don't listen on Spotify, that is the only way we really have for you guys to monetarily support us right now. So we put the link to it in the description at the end of all of our episodes. So even if you're listening on YouTube and you feel so compelled, please do that. And thank you so much for tuning in. We love you guys so fucking much, and we will catch you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye. The hashtag weaponized incompetence literally has over 67 million views on TikTok. So like you said, it's viral as fuck. And this is a TikTok about a man going to the store and not knowing what the fuck he's doing. So let's watch it.
Ladies, when you send us to the store, turn your ringtone on. It's not even in case we might call you, okay? We're going to call you. The potatoes aren't where you said they'd be. The guy who works here's never even heard of the hair stuff you use. And the aisle you said ketchup would be in is now cleaning supplies.
Does she have to teach you how to eat the food too?
Okay, this is hilarious. Like, and that's what I'm talking about. Like, people will literally take this shit and make it funny.
Right.
Like, because it's relatable. Like, that's a TikTok that you could see if you're in a relationship like this and send it to your husband or your boyfriend or whatever and be like,
And
oh,
that's
you do
so
this
sad.
shit.
And looks aside, bro. That man, like, he's so ugly to me because of what he just said. Like, that's crazy. And it's like, I feel like we'll keep coming back to this that you said at the literal very beginning. Like, what if you lived alone?
Right.
There would be no there would be none of this going on because you would just do it.